This conference will now be recorded.
So we saw what is class, object, and how to create an instance using, we can create our own object using a keyword called class. So let's first understand what is class. Class is a user-defined data type in Python, like how they have created list or dictionary inside Python. Like that, we can create our own data type. And this class acts as a blueprint for creating an object. Why we are telling it as a blueprint? Because they have already defined what is sort, what is pop, what is append, everything. They have written a neat code. How in append what the program should, how the Python should behave, what it should do. So they have written a bunch of code for us to easily access that dot append. So already it is a blueprint is created in the object, and inside the class a blueprint is created using which later we can use all the functionalities, right? And classes are defined using a keyword called class, as we saw yesterday. So class is defined a keyword using a keyword called class, and your class names should be in camel case, which means if you had multiple word, start of each word you can have capital letter, and the remaining can be in smaller letter so that it is readable. And then yeah, we saw, let me take one new example. Okay, so I don't want to talk about class attribute as of now. So yeah, so this is how you create your own class. And when you create a class, you should have one method called init. De define, you know how why we need a def keyword, and you should have init. And inside the parenthesis, the first parameter should always be self. And then you can have n number of parameter depends on how you creating your own class. So these two should you should follow the syntax, and this line you have to mug up. Only this breed and name will change in different classes. Okay. And what is the object? Object is an instance of class. So we are creating class just because we wanted to create an object, right? We want object and we want method. So let's use an object. It's also a data type, and we want a method called append. So that is why we are creating a class. After creating a blueprint, it's just a blueprint, it's just a template, like how you have resume template. We have multiple resume template, but after you download, you fill your own data. So similarly, you're creating a generalized object, class, then you can create your own object. Like, so object is an instance of class. So object is an instance of class. It's a concrete representation of class with its own unique data. So your resume will have your own unique data. Everybody's resume will have unique data, unique phone number, unique address. But using a template we are doing. So that is called a concrete representation of class, right? So objects are created based on the class blueprint, and you can create multiple objects from the same class with each with its own set of attribute value. Somebody can have multiple experiences. They can have two to three pages of resume, and somebody can be a fresher. They will not have any experience. So they have their own attribute values, and they have their unique set of data, right? So it's just a blueprint. We are just creating a blueprint that the class is having breed and need. That's all. And later we are creating our own object Here we are instantiating. Here, because object is an instance of class. To create an object, you have to use instance of class. You are here. This line is called instantiating. So here, this is your own name, and you are calling a class called dog. Here you are creating an object. My dog is an object, and here you're calling class, and you are giving buddy, which is a breed. Self is just a denotion telling Python that this is the main method inside the class. That's all. You need not use anywhere here. You are giving a breed and also a name. Same here. You're giving breed and name, and maybe I change the order. Breed should be, so this is how you can create your own dog. And we know instantiation is the process of creating an object using the instance from the class, and it involves calling a class constructor. So we are not just using dog. Here this is your own object name, and this is the class which we have already created, and inside brackets we are also giving we are using a method dot called init. The init method is what you are using. So it involves calling a class constructor, which is that init method in Python, to initialize the object attribute. So we are what we are doing, we are both instantiating and also initiating. So this is called instantiating using dog and open and close bracket. If you give some data, then it is called initializing the object. So initially we are giving some data to it. So I hope you are now okay with the term called what is object instantiating and initializing the object. And the next topic is class attribute. So this is called a class attribute. So this is common to all the dog. Here, the breed and name might differ for each each dog, each object you are creating, but the scan is, so this species dog is kind of a family family of wolf. That's called canis. So it belongs to this kind of species. So this is common to all your object. It's not going to change. Like how your name and breed is going to change, this is not going to change. So this is common. So these are object attributes, and this is class attribute. Class attribute will be common for all the object. And whatever you have given inside the bracket, that's called object attributes. So class attributes are always defined inside the class but outside the method. So first thing what we see is class attribute only. Is inside the class but it is outside this method. So the whatever is given outside the method and inside the class is called class attribute, and it's accessed using class name or through an instance. Let me show. So here we have two examples. One is we are using class name and accessing this attribute. And later, one more example is I'm using the object name, the instance which we have created, and we are accessing that class attribute. In both the case, it is going to print this. If at all we are giving the print, I mean the scan is family, this is going to be printed in both the case. So the class attribute species is shared by all the instance of dog class. All the instance can access it, while the name and breed are instance specific to each dog object. So this object will have different breed and name. This object will have different breed and name. So these are specific. These object attributes are specific to object, and this class attributes is common, shared by all the instances of this dog. So I have given all the pointers in the document. I'll save it to the Python doc. Maybe you have to go through and you have to mug up all these kind of terminologies. So classes define the blueprint, and objects are the instances created from class. And instantiating is a process of creating an object. And class attributes are attributes shared among all the instances of class. And these are object attributes. This is specific to each object instance. So I hope you understood what is class and what is the init method and how we instantiate our own. I mean how we create our own instances, and how we are passing initializing. We are passing the init method attributes here, and how we can access the class attribute. Let me show you one more example. This is not exactly how they have built in Python, but I just wanted to give you overall understanding how they would have created list. So I just want to give you an idea how the object, how the class, how the object list is created, data type list is created in Python, because we are just accessing, we are creating our own list, and we are initializing our own data inside the list, right? So for example, they would have written like this, because I'm just have giving you an outlook, but the Python list would have been a very rich library. It would have had a very complex and complex details inside the class, but I'm just giving a outlook. It might have been like this. That's all. I'm just trying to replicate all its functionality. So here we have a class called custom list, and they would have had this in it for sure, and then self here, because we are not giving any attributes, they're just going to add some item to it. And this is append. What they are going to do whenever we give append, I'm just directly giving append, but they would have written a complex logic so that your data is added to the last index. So what they would have did, they would have found what is a max index, and then they will create one more index, max plus one. In that index, they will go and insert your data. The logic would seem like that. So, but I've directly given, like I have given some my own, and then you have one more method, and this is kind of an init method, but just your name is different. So that is why I have given self here, and we are trying to find an index. Return the index. So if index is between 0 and the length, because you cannot access minus one index, and also you cannot access the more than, if your list is having only three numbers inside it. For example, the last index is two, right? You cannot access the third index. So that is why what they are doing, they are checking if the index is less than that. So they are giving this, else they are raising an error. Exception we will see later. We have one more topic after this, oops, and then later the next is exception handling and all. So they would have raised some error telling that index is out of range. So set item. So I have written like how to define a length. Maybe they would have written something like find the max index and return it. Maybe max index plus 1 is a length, right? If the index is 2, then it is having three numbers inside it. So the length would be 3. So I have written, and later what we are doing, we are creating. This is how we usually create, right? Here I'm just giving custom list. Maybe they would have written class name like this only, maybe. So initially we are creating an empty list. We are creating an instance called my list, your own list. You're creating an instance. Then later you are appending, or you can directly also give here, and then later you can append. Then you are finding the length. You are removing. You are finding the index, and you are giving count, and you are clearing it. So because this clear is a method we have written here, so this is clear, and then clear might be like remove everything. They would have written some logic for that. And then finally, what is a list they are printing? So here we are creating an instance, and we are in calling all the methods inside the class. Here, if you are giving 1 comma 2 comma 3, it would work. This is called both instantiating and initializing. Here you are creating your own list based on the blueprint given above. So guys, is it clear, or is it going over your head, or it's confusing? Okay. So what about others? Rajita, Tilly, and Sam. In the space, any word in the space. Initially, it should be unit, and later, whenever you are creating which needs to access the self item, which means that particular list item, then you can give like this. You can either give like this or you can give like this. Both would work same, but you should have one in it, and it should have a self attribute, at least one attribute that is self. Then later you can add your own parameters, different parameter. Okay, let's see one more example. So what is this circle is called? Rajita, is
Class.
it clear for you?
Yeah, trying.
Okay, so what is this circle is called?
Class.
What is the C is called in line number 16?
Is it a
Like,
object?
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
C is an object.
instance
Mm-hmm.
of the
Okay.
object.
Yeah, you can tell object or instance of object. Anything is fine because this is called class. This is also a blueprint, right? Blueprint to create your own object, or you can tell instance of object. Both are fine.
I have a
I
question.
mean, instance of a class. It's not instance of an object. Or this is an object,
Yeah.
and we can call instance of class. Yeah.
I have a
Yes, Tilly.
question. I thought in line 16, C is the reference, but the object is circle parentheses. I thought that's what you said yesterday.
Actually, I don't know, maybe I would have been confusing you. So this, whatever you have a name after the class, this is called um, class or data type, a new data type you're creating, or class you can tell. And this is an instance of class, which means, so this is a template, but this is your own resume. So this is a class, this is instance of class, or this is object. So here, actually it's an object which they call as an instance of a class. Instance of a class you have created. It is also a reference. Using the reference only you're creating it. So, I mean, technically you have to use a word instance of class or object. But yeah, you're referring the circle and you're creating your own, referring the template, you're creating your own resume, something like that.
Okay. Okay,
So
thank
objects
you.
are created. Okay. So objects are created based on the class grouping. That's all. So C is an object and it's an instance of class and it is created based on the blueprint given in the class.
So if we want to call any methods, we should use c dot something like that, right?
Yeah, right. So whenever you creating list, so list is this, right? But you will be creating list equal to, so this is instantiating, you are creating an object and you are then passing value also. But if you want to access any method given inside, then you will be giving count, your own object name and the count.
So what are
Is it
these
okay?
radius and all? Self is compulsory. This is a self attribute. This radius is equal to 1. This one.
So here, this is radius, right?
Hmm.
So we are calling this radius. Let me show. Let me show here. So here, what you are doing, so you are here you have something called set radius. You have a method for resetting radius. Okay, you have a method, and then you have, I mean, all the methods inside the circle will have self, right? Because it is a blueprint. It's not original method. It's a, I mean, original function. It's just a blueprint. It's a method inside the circle. So that is why you see self always. And here you are getting a new radius, right? You are getting a new radius. After getting new radius, you have some logic. From 9, 10, line number 9 to 11, you have logic. But this is a method name and this is the attribute of method, right? So to call this method c dot set radius, here I have given c dot set radius, and since it is accepting a parameter, I am passing the parameter as 2. Is this clear?
Yes, yes.
Then later what I am doing, yeah. So later what I am doing, I am calling c dot radius and c dot area. Maybe I have, let me run, I have copied a wrong code. I'll copy this again. Let me first show a simple example. Let's run this. Okay, this is inheritance. I haven't taken it yet. 1 minute. So here an object is created when I give, so here I'm just calling bark, and inside the bark, so here this is our object, right? The instance of a class, and in the class, the blueprint, it has a dog, and then we are calling this blueprint, I mean calling the class, and we are giving, this is our init method, right? We are passing name and breed, so buddy and golden retriever. And then later we are using this method called self. Self is giving self dot name barks. So here you just see only the method creation. You are not seeing a print line that we will see later in next example. And later when you call this, you are referring to the class attribute using your own um, object name and also using the class name. These two you understand, and here you see we are calling the method using dot method, but only the object got created. Like how whenever you use map, only the object will be created. You have to use list, for example. So whenever you use map, it will show only object created. Then later what we will do to know the details of map, we will be enclosing it with list, right? We will be enclosing it with the list, either the class name. So to know the value of this map. Similarly, here you're seeing only the object creation, right? So now let's go back to the circle. my terminal. Okay, first let me comment this. Okay, so here you have the init method, which is having self, and you understand that. And here radius, they are giving equal to one. I mean, they are by default, they are giving value one. You can also give like this. And here they are calculating the radius, and also they are calculating the, I mean, they are passing the radius, and then they are calculating the area. So here pi is a class attribute. So you can use it either here and later here also you can use. So they are using pi here, and then because it is common for all the methods inside the class, that is why here you are defining it. And then here you are resetting. When you set radius, this one is resetted to your new radius. Whatever I give here, it is resetted. So here it's passing the new radius, and then based on the new radius it is calculating the area. So here you can either give self.py or you can give circle.py. Self.py means, so it is inside this, using this method self you are accessing this pi. Or you can, what you can do, let me comment this out. We don't have to have both the, we can either, we can use circle.py. So we are calling the class and then the class attributes. This is method, kind of this method dot attribute, and then you can directly call using class. Then what we are doing, we are get circumference. For this, what we are doing, we are returning. What we are returning the radius into self.py into 2. So the area is different and the circumference is different. So both we are calculating. So initially we are creating our own object. We are creating an object which is an instance of a class. The class name is circle. And here when you print, initially it is showing radius is 1 because by default we have value 1 inside it, and then the area is calculated based on 1. It is 3.14 and the circumference is 6.128, 6.28. So here, then later what we are doing, we are setting, we are resetting actually. We are setting our own radius, and then we are calling the radius, we are calling the area, and also we are getting the circumference. Here you see, when I have to access the circumference, I'm using object name, then followed by the method name, get circumference, isn't it? Here get circumference is there. I'm just calling this method, and this method is returning me this value. So whenever I call this method, the value is written. The value called this 12.56 is written. So how can I call that method? Because it is inside the class. So we created an object and then we are calling it using our own object, right? This line, did you understand? Sam? Okay. So here next is c dot radius and c dot area. So here this is not a method, right? So whenever you have a method, you are giving the method name and passing, you are giving open and close bracket. But this is just a variable, right? Kind of a variable you have declared inside the rate, inside the method, self dot radius and area, right? Is this a method, self dot radius or area? This is not method. Set radius is your method. So you are calling this method here. Set radius you are calling, and then get circumference you are calling. Both you are calling. And the set radius is asking for attribute and parameter, so you're giving the parameter. And get circumference, it doesn't need any parameter, so you're not passing any parameter. So this line number 24 and line number 21 is clear, right? And I hope this all is clear. I mean, we are creating our own instance and then we are calling one of the method inside the class and we are calling the other method also. But I just wanted to show how this self.radius is set. That's all. I just wanted to show what is there inside the radius and what is there inside the area. So that is why here we are calling the variable. That is why we can directly call and we don't have any open and close bracket. We can access a variable defined inside the class as well. We can access the class and we can access the variable inside the class, right? Is it clear? What doubt do you have here? Guys, ignore whatever is written inside class. Later we can understand whatever is written in the class. But on outer look, we have a class called circle and it has set radius and get circumference. Two methods. Set radius is you have to set the radius and get circumference. It will return the circumference of the circle based on the radius you have set, right? So I'm creating an object instance of a class and then later I'm setting my radius and then getting my circumference. So I hope this line and this line, maybe line number 16 is clear and 21 is clear and 24 is clear, right? Here this 19 also is clear, right? These lines you understood apart from the c dot radius and area. The remaining, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're doing, we can even access the variable inside the method. Here we are having a variable called radius. See, this is a variable, right? Pi is a variable. It's nothing but a variable inside the class, but it is a global variable. That's all, right? These self.radius and area differs. Here it is 1, but here after you, here this radius is going to give me 2. Because I have given 2 here, the radius here it is going to give me 2, but initially it was 1. When I call this method, init method, it is 1. When I call this set radius method, it is 2 because these are local variable. It will change based on the when we go inside different method, the value will change. But this is a global variable. But in my previous example, the same global variable, I'm telling it's a class attribute, right? Why I'm telling class attribute means it's a behavior common for all the object, all the method. So this species can be accessed anywhere in the program inside the method you create inside the class. So these are the methods you create inside the class. Here also you can access this outside the class. When you create your own object, there also you can access it. You can access it using circle.species also. You can access it using mydog.species also. So how you are accessing it? You are giving just dot species. That's all. You are not giving open and close bracket how you call a method. But directly you are giving dot species, right? It is printing you this line, whatever is given. Canvas is printed here, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a variable. The variable how you are accessing dot only. Met object dot variable name. And if you want to call this bark, then how are you accessing it? Object dot method. Here you are not giving open and close bracket because here it's not actually asking for any input. I can give like this. So here you see initially I'm initiating in creating an instance of an class which is my own object, my dog. So this is a class. We are creating an object or we are creating an instance of a class. So here we are calling bark, right? So here what it does, it actually getting this functionality we'll see later what we have written here, but it is getting the name and then it's passing the self dot name here. So that is why it's telling Buddy, because my dog name is Buddy. Inside my dog it is Buddy. So whenever I call Buddy dot bark, it is going to tell Buddy barks. If I give your dog name is Daisy, then it will give Daisy barks, right? So I'm just accessing the method. I'm also accessing the variable. So here it is telling, or I can give my dog. So here I wanted to access Buddy, the name Buddy. How should I access? Because if it is like, if I have given, so if I have given my dog name is equal to Buddy, here I can pass that variable directly, right? I can pass that variable, but I don't have such variable here. How should I give? My dog Buddy belongs to Canis. I want to print like that. What should I give inside this curly braces? What should I give?
Self dot name.
Yeah. Uh,
Self dot
my
name.
my my dog
My dog not dot name.
dot name.
Okay. So why we can't give self dot name? Because it will not know whether to take this name or this name, right?
Yeah.
How will it know? So I'm giving, so this object dot name is nothing but here. Ignore the self. Self is only for syntax purpose. Ignore the self and all. So inside this method, our name is given. Whenever we give name, that name is passed here. So here, if I have some other variable, that variable name I have to give. So here in this example, you have seen when I give radius is c dot radius. Here I'm not setting any radius. So it since it has a default value, that default value 1 is set into this radius and it is giving c dot radius, it is giving 1. But later what I'm doing, let me run this also. So later what I'm doing, I'm setting my own radius. In that case, this method is called and this radius is then set. Whatever new radius you are getting as an input is then set into this radius. This new radius is passed into this radius. Ignore the self. This is only for syntax purpose. So here, this radius is then printed, right? C dot radius. 2 is printed here. So if at all I have to access my dog name, this is the only way I can access it, right? Isn't it? Do you have any other way to get the name Buddy here and print it here? So
So
here
if
you
we
are calling
give
the,
self dot name, what will be the output?
it has no output. Let me
None.
show.
Oh,
Yeah, we here, okay, let me show
it will
that.
not understand which output to
Yeah,
give, so it will give none. Okay.
so it is throwing me an error. Self is not a definition. It's not defined. For example, this name is defined. We are creating a name here. This species is defined. We are telling this is a species, a variable, and then I'm assigning this value. Here, name, I'm assigning this value. Self is just for reference. Ignore this self at all completely. How we have class here? This is just keyword, right? We will not be using class anywhere in my code, right? This keyword will I use anywhere in my code?
No.
No. Similarly, you will not use self anywhere in my code. Nowhere you will see self value calling a method or function or any variable. Self is just telling these are the method created inside the class. So whenever I create a method inside the class, I'll be giving self. So this is just an indication. That's all.
Okay.
So that's why it's throwing me an error. So it is telling when I run this code, it is going to give me an error like self is not defined. That's what I will get here in the terminal also. So I'm removing this. Because self is just a keyword. Class, like how class is a keyword. I cannot give class dot species. I can only give dog dot species. So self is this you can ignore. This also you ignore. Like but you have to write while you're writing your code. That's how the Python is developed. But so here when you click, so here what it is telling self at dog. So it belongs to dog. That's what it's trying to tell. Okay. So let me. So my dog buddy belongs to Canis family. So then here I will give you a dog. My dog Daisy belongs to. Correct? So here now you understood why I'm using dot radius, c dot radius and c dot area. If I have to access like how we I'm accessing buddy I'm only passing into the while creating a circle, while creating a dog I'm only passing that name, but I have not defined it anywhere. So this is a definition. Here only we are defining inside the class only we are defining. So to access the value which I have given also, I have to use this only c dot radius. Since area is calculated on its own, set radius is creating here. We are not passing anything called area, but here a variable is created area and we are giving some logic. So radius is this formula we are giving and radius is calculated and saved. So if I have to access this area, my object dot area. So if I give dog dot area, circle dot area, it will give me 1 into 1 into 1 minute. So area, initially radius is 1 and then area and circumference we saw. Because we are giving c dot radius and c dot area. What if I give, I can't give this. I can't give this because it's not a class attribute. It's a object, method attribute. So this is a method attribute I cannot call using class name. So that is why I'm giving c dot area. Here we are giving 1 and then based on that one, this radius is given and this area is also calculated. When we give our new radius, then these are printed. I can't give circle dot area. I can give circle dot pi because this is a class attribute. This is the only class attribute we have. This remaining or method attribute. You can access it like this also. So this is little difficult to understand. It's not straightforward like how we create a function, how we call range, inbuilt method. This is like a little weird thing. So that is why it's becoming very difficult to understand. But you know how to create your own object, first you should have a class. Ignore this whole code. You need not understand now this at this level. So you have a class and you are creating your own object and there is a variable inside the class under some method under some definition. You have a variable called radius and area. Ignore the self. So you're calling it using your own object, c.radius and c.area. Since it has some default value, it is printing your default value because you're not setting any radius. Then later what you're doing, you see there is one more method called set radius. You're giving your own value. Then it will be changed because we have one more method which is actually reassigning the radius and area. So you are accessing this radius is accessed from here, set radius, and then you are calling the circumference. Is it clear for everybody? Tilly, Sam, Sirisha, Rajita.
Yes.
Okay. We will see one more example tomorrow. A same circle I'll be writing in a different way. I will have multiple method inside it, and we will see how to. Or we can see I have written one more code also, like in for in a shopping world, you will be having uh, electronic product, you will be having clothing product, similar. So these all product, right? So I'll be creating a main class called product, and then later I will have sub objects called electronic product or book product or clothing product. But everything will have a common attribute kind of thing, right? A product will have a name, either it is a shirt or t-shirt. It will have a price, right? And it will have some brand name. So all the products will share this common feature like name, brand name, and then the price and how many quantities are available inside the shop. So I'll be creating a class, and it will have all the common attribute defined inside it. Later we can create our own product. So that's how the shopping cart is created. Every time you create a product, every time you have a types of product like electronic product, you're not going to write your whole full code like what is a name and how we have to calculate the stock. And the same code will be repeated for clothing product also, right? Same code and the same logic will be repeated, how to calculate the stock. Like in list, you have how to count the list, or how to find the length of the list, right? That's a very common thing. That's why they have put it in the class called list. They have created a class called list, and they have put that attribute inside it. Later you can use it. So similarly, to count the products, how many phones are there, how many books are there, and what is their brand, how many brands are there inside that phone, how many phone brands you have in your shopping cart. So there are some common features. Instead of writing under multiple product, you are defining a class, and later you are accessing it. That's all. We will see that example tomorrow. Are we fine till here? Like this, at least these you go, did you understand completely? You need not write on your own, but whatever was written already, did you understand it? If you understand this, then well and good. This is what needed at this level. Okay, because just yesterday I started telling what is class and object. So you should just understand, and you know what you will be getting here. When I use this variable, what value will it pass? If you understand that, that is enough. Later we will try to write our own code. Thanks, guys. We can wind up here. Thanks for being patient to understand class and object.